Hello everyone, welcome to POLI 2051. I am going to go over some information with you all today. This is Professor Stanley, Louisiana State University, Alexandria, Department of Behavioral and Social Sciences. You are in POLI 2051, American Government, and if you signed up for the wrong class, I guess you probably know by now. Fall 2017, this is an online class, of course. And the whole purpose of this discussion today is to familiarize everyone with the syllabus and how things are structured and how they go in the classroom. And normally, I don't spend a whole lot of time on the syllabus because it does give you an idea on paper of what the expectations are, but again, those vary by instructor. So I want to kind of go through and make sure that you're all familiar with what my expectations are and the things that I emphasize more, compared to other professors in the department or, even in other departments throughout the university. Okay, so yeah, you have my contact information there. Phone number, that is actually the department's phone number. If you call and attempt to reach me, they will relay the message so that I can get back to you. I try to be at my computer in the afternoon, so that would be the best time. If you were trying to reach me by email or whatever the case is, that would be applicable there, or also by appointment. That's also preferred. If you have a lot of stuff you need to talk about, or other questions that, or perhaps you want to discuss more, even about the material that we're going over, then it would be best to set up an appointment. Course description, you probably read when you were signing up for the class. Survey the principles, structures, processes, and functions of the American government, with emphasis on the national government. I would probably say that it would be better stated as the U.S. government, but that's how the catalog has it described. So we're going to stick to that. Topics include constitutional development, federal-state relationships, electoral politics, law, public policy, and civic responsibility. Okay, so those are all exciting things that you'll become familiar with throughout the class. Goals and objectives of the course. Remember, this is sort of like a step up from the foundations course. If you had the 1001 class, maybe with Dr. Ordaz, you have a little bit more of an understanding of what's going to be talked about in this course. But our main objectives and our goals will be to study government here in the U.S. to become better informed and to be able to better function within the system we have here in the U.S. As it applies to wherever it is you are locally. The student will also understand political information in order to process and evaluate the efforts to influence citizens that will be made by government, politicians, advocacy groups, the media, and others. Okay, so a lot of information there. Again, this is a very broad and basic general idea of what we're doing here in this class. Required textbooks. Now, some of you had an earlier edition. You've contacted me about that. Using that is fine if you are able, if you are the type of learner that is able to grasp broad concepts and use those concepts to help you understand the smaller details, okay? Because basically, they come out with a new textbook every year, and it just has the most current events. The idea is that the science of it all doesn't change, and I will argue that political science is a science. It is a social science, albeit that. However, there is a strategic approach to studying it at the higher levels. But again, that's not going to be anything we go into great detail into this course. Some of you will be interested in the information, and I certainly hope everyone is. Others, this is just sort of a checkoff list for your requisites, or excuse me, your uh, electives is the word I'm looking for there. So you pretty much get out of the class what you put into the class. Okay, there is a lot of stuff to study, and of course, you know, you can go certainly more in depth into these subjects if you wish. Okay, online classroom rules and conduct. Pretty much, you know, basic guidelines here. Don't forget that just because we're online, that doesn't give you the rite of passage to say things that are not acceptable or would not be acceptable in a traditional classroom setting. However, that being said, free discussion is encouraged, and I certainly want everyone to express their ideas within the class. And let's keep the slang and the acronyms and whatever it is that you use in texting to a minimum. The idea is to communicate in such a manner that you can be understood across, you know, the spectrum in terms of scientifically speaking. Okay, both as you know from your other colleagues and myself as well. All right, so percentage of course presented online 100. This is not a hybrid class. All of this is online. Okay. Uh, that being said, it does take a lot of reading and writing to complete this course, and I'll get into that later on in the syllabus. We're on a 7-point grading scale, so keep that in mind. That's pretty standard in this department as well as some of the other departments throughout the school. You will be graded on a couple different things: your discussions, your application assignments, and in the case that there is a final research paper, which there will not be a final research paper for this class particularly. There will probably be a final assessment, in other words, final exam that I will give out on the remaining chapters that we covered. It will not be a comprehensive exam. It will just be the chapters that were covered, so to speak, in the last portion of the class, and I will update everyone on that. Makeup work is generally situational. In other words, it's contingent on what it is that actually happened, and you have to make me aware of what's happening in order for me to know that something's actually happening. And this is one of those things where you should let me know first. I've had students in the past contact the department after not putting in any work all semester and then expect us to accept work and make arrangements around them. And I know that life gets in the way sometimes. However, you should at least reach out to myself, you know, first, obviously, to let me know what's going on, and then I will reach out to the department chair, Dr. Jerry Sanderson, if we need to make decisions on giving you, you know, for example, extra time after the semester ends, or if it's something major, you know, I'll have to send it up the line. But if it's something that can be handled in-house, please let me know. Okay? Obviously, you will be penalized for late work. Your grading breakdown is listed here: discussions, application assignments, final paper, which in this case will be a final assessment of some kind. Attendance. This does apply to students that are taking online classes because they will contact me and ask who has logged in and who has went through the course and who hasn't. Okay, so the beauty about Moodle and the system that we use is that it tracks what you do when you log in and pretty much everything you do on there. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not watching you, but anything you input into the system or things that you add on the discussion board, or just for example, like that, or application assignments that you may upload, that's all tracked basically for dates and times. So if there is a dispute about, if someone turned something in or if they did not, then we have that to fall back on. Now, if you miss a lot of class, you're going to need to deal with that. That's your problem, basically. It's not my responsibility to catch you up or to bring you up to speed on what's going on. You have to pretty much log in and get work completed multiple times throughout the week. All right? That's just the bottom line. All right, your technology and learning resources. Be sure you have access to a computer. You will need access to the internet as well as a basic understanding of how to use things like Microsoft Office, Google Chrome, or the Internet Explorer. Any questions on that stuff, you need to contact the IT department. That's not my forte, so to speak. My job is to be a subject matter expert and deliver content to you, the student. If you log in with someone else's username and password, that's a big no-no. That's considered to be basically grounds for dismissal or discipline from the university. It's basically cheating is what it is. So everyone always wants to know, what's the big deal? What do we do here exactly in this class? Well, you have some examples here. Discussions make up the majority of things that you'll be doing for a grade here in this class. Now, let's get something out of the way. If you plagiarize and you copy and paste stuff off of Wikipedia or anyone else for that matter, then you will get a 0 for the assignment. Okay? That is the bottom line. I cannot tell you how many times that I didn't even have to use the system to look at a student's work and determine that it's not at their level. I can tell what a subject matter expert, what their writing is versus what an undergraduate's writing normally is. Okay, that's just with me looking at it. Now, like I said earlier, the things you input is put into a database, and it will scan the entire internet for similar words and sentences. I don't care how crafty you think you are when you try to mix up the sentences or the paragraphs or whatever the case may be. If I even suspect it, I will bring it to your attention, and I will deduct points initially because some people just do not know, and that's perfectly fine. But anytime after that, I will give you a 0, and I will make sure that the department chair knows about it. Okay? None of us like cheaters. No one. None of your instructors, no one in any legitimate position likes a cheater, because we all have had to work very hard to create knowledge, essentially, is what we do. And when we have people that don't respect the process, it is a lose-lose situation for everyone, for the students and for the faculty and for the administration, and you are representing LSUA as well. So those are some things to keep in mind. When you do your discussions, again, they're 3 to 4 paragraphs in length. You must provide references using APA format. If you don't know what APA format is, there is a ton of information available on the internet. Okay, and there's more information in the syllabus in this little section here as well. So you will initially make a discussion post yourself, and you will respond to at least 2 of your colleagues. All right, that is also important as well. So I want to show you what is acceptable for discussions and what is not. All right, so these are some examples that I pulled from the archives. Of course, no one's name is listed here. Basically, if you look at the first example, you will see that there are run-on sentences, there are no clear topic sentences or transitioning sentences, no supporting details, well, very little. So the idea is to use those skills that you got in English class to construct something that can be read by your classmates and myself, and then a opinion can be logically formed. Okay? And the first example does not illustrate that. However, remain optimistic, because the second example gives you a better idea of what it is exactly I'm looking for. Notice the student gives a definition of what it is they're going to be talking about. That's a topic sentence. Okay? They also provide supporting details. And then finally, there's a transition into the next paragraph. And I don't mind if you give your own opinion, okay? You can give your opinion. However, when you start discussing things like definitions and ideas, you need to back that up with knowledge, okay? What we call references. And as you can see, this student has done a very good job. They have their 3 paragraphs, and they are full paragraphs, okay? Meaning 4 to 5 sentences. And you, of course, have the reference at the end there. That's what I mean by a reference. Okay, so that is what a good discussion looks like. It is full. It has all the elements of English literature, the basic fundamentals and composition class, topic sentence, supporting details, and a transitioning sentence at the end, or concluding sentence, whatever you want to call it. All right, so that's what I expect, and I want to. The reason I'm doing this, everybody, is basically I've had a lot of problems in the past before, so I want to be very clear about what the expectations are. All right, application assignments are basically short essays, and I'll give you an example of those when we do have those application assignments. Notice what the student has done here. You know, they're going to be 3 to 4 pages, or excuse me, 2 to 3 pages generally. So she has done her 3 pages, and she's done it in APA format. Notice she has well, she should have broken up some of this a little bit, but I won't get into that. You want to sort of limit your paragraphs to no more than 7 sentences. But to make a long story short, she has given a flow or a rhythm throughout the paper. Okay? That's what she's done. The same thing with the topic sentence, supporting details, and conclusion. It's the same thing when you write essays. Okay? Introduction, body of the paper, and conclusion. Boom. Just like that. And the reference page. Okay? It has to have a flow to it. I'm not looking for quantity here. Okay? Well, obviously, if I see that you've only done one page, then that's already a red mark for you. But if you can give me quality work and summarize what it is you're saying in an efficient manner, and 2 to 3 pages, that is the goal here, people. That is what I want you to understand, is the discussions and application assignments. I did not create them to make your life miserable. I created them so that you can understand how to, number one, gather information in your mind. Take a lot of information and compress it down and learn what it is you need to know from the information without having to read everything necessarily, and then synthesize that information and then say what it is you need to say about the information. That's pretty much how academics works. I teach you the very basics at this level. You assimilate that information and then you produce something regarding your thoughts about the information. Okay, so again, we talked a little bit about the final project already. More than likely, it will be an assessment of some kind. I will give you ample time before you are given any kind of assessment or a quiz or anything like that. So don't worry about that. You have plenty of time, is what I'm trying to say. If there's going to be a big project that's due, I'm going to let you know. If there is something that's going to take a lot of time, you'll have plenty of time way ahead of time. All right. Additional course policies. Just some extra things here I want to just call to your attention. I discussed APA already. Check the course resources for calendar dates and academic dates and things of that nature. Okay, so and also when you email me, please put your name and then the class so I know who you are and what class you're coming out of. Otherwise, the system generates a subject line that is kind of hard to read. Okay, so moving on. Tentative course outline. Sorry about that. Let's go back up. Part 1, Intro to American Government. We talk about foundations, the beginnings, the founders. You'll hear that word a lot. Constitutional democracy. Okay. The structure of the American government. In other words, federalism. How does federalism work? Horizontal, vertical, dual federalism. There's a lot of good information there in your book about that. And what I've decided to do, normally we don't cover the domestic and economic policy as well as foreign policy, but that needs to be covered, okay? It's very important. So what we've done is we've put a little bit of that into the mix as well. Now, more than likely, you will have maybe a small quiz on domestic and economic policy and foreign policy, probably on week 4. And like I said, I'll give you a 7-day notice to complete that quiz. And they're short. There may be 10 questions, so it's nothing to freak out about. But it does give you, or give me, or give both of us an idea of sort of where you are in the class and how you're progressing, that sort of thing. Okay? So, politics for the people, the second part of this class. Civil rights and civil liberties, 2 different things. You'll have to learn the difference between those. Politics and public policy. So you'll notice weeks 5 through 8, we don't have as many chapters to cover. Okay, so that gives you a little bit of a breather there. But then we're going to jump right back into elements of American politics, which is part 3 of the class. This is when we start talking about the public opinion and polls and the media and what it is that they do to influence things and reporting styles and all those different types of various things. And then we'll also discuss political parties and interest groups. So again, it does not seem like a whole lot here when you're looking at it, but when we get into the information, you'll find out that each topic goes very deep, and there is a lot to know about each one of these topics. So it's important that you want to learn as much as you can when you're reading and when you're learning about all these different things. The interest group section is really interesting to me because you find out who really runs the country, and we'll get into more of that later. Also, we'll have campaigns and elections. The assignment for that is chapters 6, 7, 8, and 9 for those weeks. You know, each part of these different things, these topics, contribute to. They're all cogs in a machine that contribute to something greater. And my hope is that you all get to see how that machine works in reality versus what it's supposed to do or what the book says it does. And that's my main goal, is to get you to see what is really happening versus what should be happening. And we'll discuss more of that later. But as we move into part 4, the last part of the class, we discuss the institutions of American government. In other words, the major players: Congress, the presidency, the bureaucracy, and the judiciary. Now, when I learned about institutions, there were only 3, and you may remember them as well as a high school student or even in elementary school, because it's very simple. There were 3 branches: the Congress, the presidency, and the judiciary. However, the government has grown so much in size and scope within the past decade or so, especially within the past decade. And I would even argue as far back as the early 1970s. But we'll get into more of that later. I don't want to get everybody riled up too early here on day 1, on syllabus day, is like what I like to call it. So that's sort of a brief overview of the topical outline of the course. You'll notice that a lot of the chapters aren't in order, and that's for a reason. The reason being is that the book does things sequentially from the author's perspective, and I'm doing them sequentially from my perspective as a subject matter expert in these topics. So I said that to say that it's been engineered in such a way that you're going to learn things in an easier and more efficient fashion when it comes to your reading assignments and also the different things that I have planned for this class. I really do hope that everyone is going to have a lot of fun with this class. It's one of the most fun courses for me to teach, is because students are relatively young to the subject, or when I say young, I mean they may not know a lot about it, so they're young in their brains on the types of knowledge that they have about this subject. So it's really fun for me to see you all grow and make a contribution to this discipline. And I look forward to reading your work and seeing you grow and ultimately realize your potential. I hope you have a great day.